of 21 Days of Yoga with Colette. Thank you so much for joining me again. And so today's intention is strength. And so we're going to do some yoga for strength, really waking ourselves up and pushing through this first week of January. So we're going to begin at the top of our mats, feet about hip width apart, feet grounding our toes in the mat, having our heels placed right, knees can be slightly bent, having a neutral spine and pelvis, stacking your ribs, your crown of your head, all of that, and bring our hands up above our heads into extended mountain pose. And then begin to lower by sitting your butt back and down as if you're sitting in a chair. As we move to chair pose, really squeezing our glutes, squeezing our thighs together, and making sure we don't bend too much forward. So really just sitting back. And we can keep our hands here, or in a cactus, or at heart center, whatever is comfortable for you. And begin to really warm the body and holding this for 3, 2, 1. And then you're going to swan dive forward fold, bending the knees, and placing your hands down on the mat, and just waking up our hamstrings, and just doing some alternating, bending the knees here. And so when you're placing your hands down, you want to step back and get into our first plank of the day. It can be here or a modified plank, whichever is comfortable, as long as you're really engaging the core. Stacking your wrists under your shoulders, and keeping all parts of your body engaged. Alright, so here you're going to shift forward. So it can help you to lower down in chaturanga or on your belly. We're going to go down to our belly. And then untucking our toes, bringing our hands by our ribs, and lifting up in cobra pose. Opening up our hearts and holding this for 3, 2, and 1. So tucking the toes back and pushing our butts back and up into downward dog, pedaling that out. And maybe doing some extreme bends and lifts as we're in this pose. Like I said, really warming ourselves up, strengthening our arms. Right, this may be a lot on our arms and downward dog. Right, putting a lot of weight that we usually don't put in this position. And now we're going to look forward and walk our feet toward our hand. So walk our feet toward our hands in forward fold. In this forward fold, we're going to step back. And first we're going to put our back knee with our right leg down and get into a low lunge. And just hold this position for 3, 2, and 1. If you can see, I like my low lunges because they're really great transitional poses and they still wake up the body. And then keeping our knee aligned and bent, and then lifting up into high lunge. Having our hips neutral, right? Not trying to open it to one side, making it a different asana. Knees engaged, back leg engaged. This is a really strong pose. You can hold it here, hands heart center, or lift up and back. 3, 2, 1. Bring your hands back down to runners and then back down to low lunge. And then bringing that back foot forward, back into forward fold. And now doing the same thing on the other side, stepping that left leg back down into this low lunge, holding it for 3, 2, and 1. Now tucking that, getting into runner's lunge. And maybe for me, I have to scoot up a little bit more to help me stabilize. And then really powering off that front leg and lifting up into high lunge. Holding this for 3, 2, and 1. Back down. bringing that back leg forward, and again, doing a forward fold. Here we don't want to slow down too much. We really want to get the warmth in our body. So we're going to place our hands back down and then step back into that plank. And then lift up, lower back down, back into that cobra, back into that downward dog, and pedal that out. Now we're in downward dog, just walking that out, right? We're a bit awake now, body's heating up. And so we're gonna lift up in that three-legged dog with the right leg, step it in front, right? Back in that runner's lunge. Now putting that back left leg about 45 degrees from the front of the mat, and then lifting your hands up and making sure your hips are squared forward. Maybe having that knee slightly bent. Forward into warrior one, right? So this one is not as common. It can be a bit of an uncomfortable pose, just having your hips to be in this neutral position, right? Maybe opening up your stance and deepening it to really wake up. And holding this for 3, 2, and 1. And now as we move into warrior 2, you're going to open your arms, and now opening up your hips. You can really feel that widening, maybe moving this foot a bit more 90 degrees with this side of the mat, and then having that wider open stance here, and holding this for 3, 2, 1. And then we're going to lean forward again, really putting that weight on this side, right? Now we're going to lean forward and actually bringing that forearm down, lifting this left arm up and overhead into side angle, and holding this for 3, 2, and 1. Cartwheeling that back into warrior 2. And then cartwheeling your hands down back into that runner's lunge. And then placing your hands down as you step back into downward dog. And maybe you might need to transition to tabletops in between and walking that out. Next, do the same thing on the left. 3-legged step in this runner's lunge. And now pivot that back foot 45 degrees. Maybe scoot it in a little bit more. And then lift up into warrior 1. So again, having the knee slightly bent, about 45 degrees in that back leg, neutralizing your hips forward, and holding this for 3, 2, and 1. And now opening up your stance, maybe tilting that back foot a little bit more, deepening it more into warrior 2. Holding this for 3, 2, and 1. Bringing that left arm down, lifting up and over. 3, 2, 1. Cartwheel back into warrior 2 and back down. To runner's lunge and then stepping back into downward dog. And then looking forward and walking our hands, or maybe walking our feet, maybe jumping into that forward fold, maybe bending down, and then kind of jumping off to bring there. And if you need to walk it a little bit to align it better, and by doing so, by all means do so. And so maybe just catch your breath, again doing some alternating knee bends here. A reminder that today's intention is strength. So really just pushing yourself, not only your physical strength, but your mental strength. So here in this forward fold, we're going to place our hands back down, step back into that plank, and really holding this here. holding strength for 3, 2, 1. And then I challenge you to then pivot this right leg so it's kind of on the side. And now you're bringing and shifting your weight back to this right side and holding this in a side plank for 3, 2, 1, and back down. And doing the same thing for the left side. So bringing down that foot, bringing that over, and holding this for 3, 2, really lifting up that core. 1, and back over. Shifting forward and lowering down. Untucking and lifting up maybe a little bit deeper for cobra pose. And then lower. Untucking your toes. Lifting back into your downward dog. If the downward dog may be too intense or you need that restorative position, then you can go to your knees, sit your butts back on your heel into child's pose. Once here or in downward dog, make your way down to your belly on your forearms in Sphinx pose. Right, and then really just lift up, opening up your chest. Maybe bringing your head back, engaging the legs and holding this for 3, 2, 1, and lower. And then back up. And then maybe this time having the knees bent and really trying to deepen that stretch. For 3, 2, 1, and lower. Next, we're going to move on to our backs. Do some bridge poses. So once again, having our knees and thighs about a block or hip width apart, bringing our feet a bit to our middle fingers, a little bit down, and then really pressing our hands down into the mat and pressing our feet down so that can ground us as we lift up the rest of our body. So first, lifting up our pelvis, chest, and then chin parallel to the ceiling, squeezing and holding for 3, 2, and 1, and lower. Once again, lifting up, pressing down on our feet, pressing down on our hands and squeezing, holding this for 3. Each number, maybe press a little bit higher up. 2, and 1, down. And then the last one, once again, squeezing up, holding this for 3. Maybe lifting up the right leg up, and then lower. Lifting up the left, squeezing again to keeping those legs engaged, down. One more with the right, squeezing. And then one more with the left. One last squeeze, and then down. So now that we're here and done in bridge pose, we're actually going to move to boat. And so you can use your hands to help you, or if you have that core strength, by all means. And so keeping your legs engaged about a width apart, maybe thinking of a block here, you can use your hands to press off to really just lift you up and adjust yourself in boat pose. And so then having your hands down, maybe a little bit farther behind you, just to give you that back support, and lifting your legs off the mat. And this may be enough for you, and I get that. If not, then you can maybe have one arm or two and holding that boat pose. squeezing, engaging your core, and holding this for 3, 2, and 1, and lower. And then back up. Maybe what might help is to move some booty meat. I know I got a little bit of butt. Once again, having my knees bent, shifting back, lifting up my legs. Once again, holding this boat pose for 3, 2, 1, and slowly lower with control. And then last one, lifting up and holding this for 3, 2, and 1. Ooh. And here we can begin Shavasana, allowing myself to get comfortable. Really releasing any tension and surrendering to the mat. So next we're going to straighten our legs out. And we're actually going to bend back that right leg. Bring it towards our chest. And actually using our left arm, bring it over so that we're kind of putting over our left leg. But without lifting up our shoulders or our butts. So seeing how far we can lift it and then maybe drop it. While still keeping both shoulders on the mat. And holding this for 3. 2. And 1. And now doing the same, now bringing that back, that left leg down, right leg down to the side, just to counter that pose, and then bringing it down. And now do the same thing for bringing this left foot up, grabbing it with the right arm, and looking to the opposite side, keeping both shoulders down, holding this for 3, 2, 1. Now countering that, bringing it down to the upper side, and then shaking that out. So now we get into Shavasana. Really resting from maybe some challenging or poses that exerted more energy than we're used to doing every day or just in our asana practice. And I invite you to bring forth your intention for today. And if you shared my intention of strength, just consider how you can represent strength in your life. What does it mean to be strong? And strong doesn't always mean being, the tough person, holding it in, carrying heavy stuff, both figuratively and literally. But it's also strong to be vulnerable, strong to share your feelings with other people, to express how you feel, what you desire, and even your boundaries. strength is also thinking about discipline in your mind. I encourage you to stay in this position if you have the time to do so. If not, just begin bringing energy to your fingers and toes. Maybe do a full body stretch. And then just safely and gently make your way up into an easy seat. Bringing your hands to heart center. The light in me, see the light in you. Thank you so much for joining me in day 5.